May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it has a big impact on our social media. So you think it might bring you joy, but some experts say it could have a negative impact on your mental health, reading all of that stuff on social media all the time. Licensed clinical psychologist Dr. Jamie Zuckerman joins us now live. So Dr. Zuckerman, before we all go deleting our social media accounts, you say it could have a positive impact if we use it correctly.
Yes. So particularly during the pandemic, we were very limited in our social opportunities. So social media in that respect allowed us to stay in touch with people. And generally speaking, outside of a pandemic, it is very useful to stay connected to people, particularly those that you don't interact with on a daily basis. For mental health, there are several support groups available online and through social media. And then also there's a lot of psychologists like myself that post mental health strategies and tips. So in that respect, it can be very helpful.
So it's not always helpful, though. We know that social media can be very negative at times. It can affect people's mental health. Can you talk a little bit more about that and what impacts we could potentially see?
Sure. So as we all know, social media always has us putting our best face forward. We filter, we crop, we take down, we put back up. So social media really is not an accurate representation of our lives. And when people are looking at Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, what they're seeing is not always reality. And so it really can kind of hit someone's self-esteem, make them feel that they are not able to keep up, make them feel that they're missing out. This is very common with kids, adolescents, college kids. They feel that they're missing out when they see posts of other kids. So it really does affect your self-esteem. The other thing that can happen is oftentimes we become addicted to our social media. We feel overly connected to it, and we almost feel naked without it. So we can be what's called mindless scrolling, where we sit in our chair, in our beds, and just kind of scroll through, and we don't even really know what we're looking at. So it takes us out of the present moment, and it actually decreases our socialization.
Yeah. And I think a lot of folks have to remember that social media is the highlights. A lot of people do not post their worst days on social media. It's their accomplishments, it's their accolades, it's what they want the world to see.
That's right.
Yeah. So what are some signs of someone developing a bad relationship with social media?
Sure. So it would definitely be a sense of agitation when they are unable to access their social media. It causes an intense amount of anxiety and depression if they are not able, like I said, to access it. And so that's definitely one symptom you want to look for. Changes in sleep patterns, staying up all night, waking up in the middle of the night to check your social media. That we know from research causes significant anxiety and depression when our sleep is disrupted, particularly constant blue screen before we go to bed. And, you know, the biggest thing I would have to say is when you realize that you are not as engaged socially with others, you find yourself isolated a lot more. You find yourself not being able to speak to somebody at dinner because you are just on your phone and connected to your social media.
Yeah. So what tips do you recommend for promoting a balanced and healthy relationship with social media?
Sure. So the first is I always recommend, if you can, setting 2-3 times max per day where you check your social media for 5 minutes each, and never do it right before bed, as I said, because you don't want to use electronics, and I would say an hour before bed. The other is, if you want to be on social media, pick 2 platforms, one that's professional and one that's social. Try to really keep it narrowed down to 2, which I know is difficult, but this really limits that mindless scrolling. And also, you know, keep in mind, as you said, what you see is not real life, and really keep that in mind. A lot of people are paid to show certain things, like influencers, and as you said, we are never posting the first selfie or first picture that we take. We are only really announcing our accomplishments. So keep that in mind when you are scrolling.
Yeah, those are some great tips. Small time on social media, only a couple platforms. I think that's wonderful. Where can folks go if they want a little bit more information about what we just talked about?
Sure. So you can follow me on Instagram don't do it all day, at Dr. G_psychologist. I post a lot of information, particularly during Mental Health Awareness Month, and also my website, drjamiezuckerman.com.
All right, Dr. Zuckerman, thank you so much for being here. Such great advice for folks. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.